you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, look at that bloody thing doesn't work again. Let me put the right screen up. There you go. This haircut hasn't got any better. How are you, folks? Hope you've struggled through your day all right. And I can tell you, when you've got no hair on top of your head and you hit it on something, it's bloody painful. And I would do better with my lights, but for some reason, when I turn them, maybe if I just lower the intensity a bit. There you go. Don't have to look at the shiny top of my head all night. Well, you probably do, but we'll try and make this one a little better for you. How are you? You're pushing through? It's been one of those sorts of days around here, I've got to say. Wouldn't call it the world's biggest day news-wise, although somebody did send me this fabulous, and I do mean fabulous, resource. Now, I'm going to give this resource to you as well. I'm going to post it into the chat right now. It's a YouTube channel, and this is what it looks like. It's an earthquake tracker. Bottom left-hand corner, that yellow squiggly line is continuous monitoring of Japan. But this thing flips around the world and shows you the most recent quakes. Now, this one here that we're looking at, I think in the Dominican Republic, only happened just a few minutes ago, just before we went to air. On the right-hand side, you'll see a whole list of different towns or different countries, and you'll note right down in the bottom third, Queensland, Australia, had a magnitude 3.1 at about 9 minutes or 8 minutes to 1 this morning. It was 10 kilometres deep, magnitude 3. But there has been some rather interesting earthquakes happening around the world today. There have been some in Alaska. There have been some in Northern California. There have been rumblings that are affecting two faults in Northern California, particularly the Bay Area. And those are rumblings at the moment, I guess is the best way to describe them. But rumblings in those sorts of areas can tend to be a little bit dramatic at times and have some very dramatic consequences, which, of course, we aren't looking for or hoping for in any way, shape or form. But we've all heard the stories about what happens when the big one comes and California basically gets dropped off the world map. It slides into the ocean, is the way it was put to me by a number of psychics I once used to know. I haven't said hello to anybody. Hello, Deb. You were first in tonight. Deb Shippard, the lovely Michelle, was in seconds later. Well, as it turns out, about 5 minutes worth of seconds later. But, you know, you were still in. And the lovely Aussie Sue, who posts up some of the most amazing photos on her Facebook page every day. I'm not sure that any of us are going to be allowed to do that anymore or for much longer. How many of you are going to stick with Facebook or any of the social medias once they make you prove who you are? You're going to require facial ID or facial recognition, which is tantamount to digital ID. And are you going to go through with it? Is social media that important to you that you can't give it up, that you can't go back to communicating maybe in the old ways? Could we make Australia Post profitable again? Well, it probably is profitable now because it's delivering all the online packages that we order. Don't know that that's the way it's meant to work, folks. But it does appear to be working that way. So it is what it is. Daniel, hope you're doing all right, all mate. Your vegetable garden got frostbite. Well, you will live in that part of the world. If it was 11 degrees in Melbourne yesterday, I would go so far as to suggest in your part of the world it probably single figures. Certainly overnight. I hope you are lucky enough to possess a heater or a fire and have the wood to put in it. which they aren't charging you 2 legs and an arm for. The gorgeous Sandy K, God love you. I hope you, well, I know you're not doing well because you broke a finger. And you know what? I reckon I have done something similar. Now, people who have had broken wrists before, please listen up. I am looking for advice. This, as you may recall, is the wrist that I broke about 12 months ago. And it's almost 12 months to the day, I think. I don't keep track of these things. However, I don't know if you can see it, but that bending of the thumb there elicits quite a large crack, 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 crack kind of thing. And I can feel that all the way running down into here. I'm also very sore and tender in the palm of my hand where my thumb is. I may have carried something heavy. I may have carried a number of somethings heavy over the recent weeks. And I'm thinking I may have done something that I shouldn't have done. But if you've had experience, one person who has had experience has told me, shut up, you sook, push on. It'll get better. So if that's the case, I'm very happy for that. But the real pain of it is right here in the knuckle. And I'm in my downtime for X39 patches at the moment. Never fear. They are never far from me. But I will put patches back on because I do find they make a huge difference, certainly with the swelling I was getting in the palm of my left hand, in the pad right under the thumb. It was very swollen and very tight. And I was massaging it. No, I didn't re-break my own hand doing that, although it did cross my mind. But I did soften up that meaty bit. And the patches are doing their job. So X39 patches, you can get them through me. Email me, carl@vofhq.com if you're interested. There is a business part to it if you want to do it, but you don't have to. Not by any stretch of the imagination. You can just be a customer and buy them. Pardon me, and there are plenty of you that do. There are plenty of you that did sign up initially, and I know I got so many exciting letters from people who were extolling the virtues of the X39s and how much help they'd been to them in their life. I've got to admit, getting those letters was life-changing, really life-changing for me, because it was real proof that I can put people in contact with things that do make not just a little bit of difference, but a lot of difference in their lives. Sadly, for some people, it made no difference in their lives at all, for a variety of different reasons, but they can't work for everybody, which is a bit sad. However, happily, I can report that 98%, better than 99%, I reckon, of people who I have given these to, who've tried them, have found them to be extremely beneficial. One of the things that we tend to do with them, though, is to not feel the pain anymore after a week or 2 weeks or whatever it happens to be. And so we don't bother putting the patch on again until it hurts again. Not necessarily the way to do it, because that's sort of, you're half fixing the problem the way that I understand the patches to work. So particularly for things that have taken a long time to do the damage. I have a left shoulder, as most of us do. I have a left shoulder that plays all hell with me, though, and that's the predominant reason I have the patches, because I get a shocking pain down the back of my neck and down into my shoulder and into my arm. These things make the world of difference to me in that regard, and I know they do in many others as well. So if that's you, yip, yeah, great. If you're new to the show and you don't know anything about it, then the way to get a patch is to go to this lifewave.com/VOF/enrollments/packs. You can see it crawling across the bottom of the screen there, right alongside our $2 ticket lottery. $750 up for grabs. And if you don't win that, you go in the draw. You stay in the draw to win 1 gram of gold. I know it doesn't sound like much, but a gram of gold at the moment is, quite a nice little thing to pick up, given that the price of silver has really kicked up in the last 24 hours or so. I was very neglectful of me to mention it last night. I should have mentioned it because the kick began last night. right now sitting at $79, just over $79. But the 1 gram of gold that we're offering as our other prize in this lottery is $233.14 if you were to go and buy it from Ainsley Bullion today, like right now. And you can go to Ainsley Bullion right now, ainsleyBullion.com.au if you want to buy one. They're there. We can help you out with that, and we can help you out with some Byron Bobs if you'd like. But best of all, for $2, and let's be honest, $2 is less than a cup of coffee. Maybe we should start charging a cup of coffee. There's an idea. Less than $2 for the chance to win 750. You can only buy a maximum of 20 tickets in the lottery. Vince and I had hoped he'd be on tonight. I'm hoping he's all right, actually, because we had lined up to do a couple of video chats this afternoon, and he hasn't turned up to them. So fingers crossed everything's okay with him. Some of the changes that we're going to make will involve a competition. It may not be this competition, but it will be a competition. And it's likely to be for a bit of a larger prize, and therefore you will be able to buy into it at different sorts of ways, is how I'm going to phrase that at the moment, because we're not quite sure on how it's going to work. But look forward to bringing that to you. There's going to be a lot of changes coming up soon. The opportunity to become one of us is going to change substantially if you have that in mind. I know there are many people who choose to support us with a membership right now, and we are extremely grateful for that. You can become a member for like $2.50 a week at vofhq.com. Just click on the membership tag. You can level up from there. You can be a bronze, a silver, or a gold member, and we are very grateful for those memberships. Can I just give you the heads up? If you are a member, there's going to be some benefits for that in the not too distant future. So maybe some of you have let that membership lapse, or you've decided it's just too much to struggle with. And I understand that at this time, we're all struggling for dollars, and if it's too much to handle, then it's too much to handle. I understand, but there are going to be some benefits coming up in the near future. The lovely Sandy Kay from the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary, who benefits from every ticket that we sell in the lottery. She doesn't benefit enough. Oh, God, I wish we could benefit her more. But at the moment, we do what we can do. And she needs a lot more help with what she's got. 108 donkeys into the sanctuary. I think she's got 2 more coming in this weekend, making it 108. Beautiful souls, as you've seen, and I can't wait to get back down to the Donkey Sanctuary, which will be sooner rather than later now, I suggest. A couple of little hurdles to jump over, but we'll get to and through those, I'm sure. But yes, we will head down to the Donkey Sanctuary and do everything we can to try and raise it a few more dollars to help the feed come in. It's never ending with the donkeys, folks. I mean, Sandy and Baz, wonderful people that they are, they will travel all over the countryside, practically the east coast of the country, to pick up abused, abandoned donkeys, or just donkeys that can't be kept where they are anymore because the owners have passed on, or for whatever reason they've outlived, the donkeys have outlived their owners. So here's an idea. If you happen to have any property and you've got sheep, or you've got anything that needs a little bit of guarding, donkeys are magnificent guard animals. Now, they do require a little bit of care. If you are in a dry area, then that would be much more suitable than somewhere in the tropics, I suggest. However, donkeys were used extensively in the tropics, particularly far north Queensland in the goldfields, to get equipment in and out back in the 1800s. Admittedly, I don't know that there was anybody looking after the health of the donkeys too much in those days, so it may have been a one-way trip for many of them. And probably quite a few of them wound up, let's not surmise. At any rate, you can give a donkey a much better home if you have a home to give it. And, well, if you can give one a home, you can give 2 a home. because they usually like to come in pairs. They've been made it up sort of thing for life, some of these. But if you can help, then reach out to me and I'll point you in the direction of Sandy at the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary, and you can have a chat with her, because while it's not a matter of wanting to offload these animals in any way, shape or form, there comes a period in, I guess, every charity's existence where they can only do so much. And I'm pretty confident that the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary, for all the good intentions and the love of all the people involved, is rapidly approaching that point. So we need to figure out new ways to help them raise more than what they're raising currently, and you can do that by visiting and sharing their social media pages. And I have. In fact, I didn't upload it because I'm an idiot. So give me but a moment and see whether or not I can upload it. I can't. So I'm going to have to show it to you a different way, but we can be a bit creative about these things. I'm going to play this for you. Now, I do hope that you used royalty-free music. Otherwise, I'm going to get pinged for copyright. In fact, there you go. Sandy's going to send me a few of these things from the Donkey Sanctuary that they're making and posting up on their social media. They call them postcards, but some of them are beautiful little videos of the donkeys doing what donkeys do. And if you can help, then you can reach out to them direct. You don't have to help by buying all your 20 tickets in the lottery. You might want to help out a bit more than spending $40. So if you are able to do that, then I can put you in touch with the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary. Sandy might have already put some sort of contact up in the chat. I haven't been following closely. So fingers crossed, if that happens, then great. I look forward to helping you help them. That would be tremendous. Of course, we always need help, but we'll get to us another night and another time. I'm just trying to have a bit of a catch up here in the chat to see if anybody's got any questions or anything they want to catch up on. Well, how did you take last night's show? I've had a huge reaction to John Armfield, who was on the show last night, ex-Navy clearance diver, and he and his brother both served in the Australian Defence Forces. Unfortunately, his brother was injured and had some mental health issues, had 2 bites of the cherry, and unfortunately was successful at committing suicide on the second one. It is not so much, although it plays a part, not so much what happened to John's brother. It's what's happened since with John and his career, and particularly how the distortions have played out. And I recommend you go back and have a look at the show from last night, and we'll do more with John in coming weeks. I've also been contacted by a number of ex-service men, I think one woman, I could be wrong, as I so often am these days. I've put them in touch with John too. And one of them, in fact, doesn't want to be in touch with John. He just wants to tell me a few interesting things. So I'm looking forward to seeing that too. That would be awesome. Andrew Barker, what a legend you are. And you can do maths pretty well too. If every subscriber gave $1, there would be $11,000 in the bank. You are absolutely correct. And what a huge difference it would make. Unfortunately, I don't know that we can count on 11,000 people doing that. The show, although for whatever reason it's been dropping a little bit recently, the show gets... Look, if we got a view, if we got $1 for every view that we got, we probably still wouldn't get it. YouTube would find a way of taking it off us. But if it was coming in another way, then that would enable us to really do something quite special with not just what I'm doing here with the Voice of Freedom, but broadly speaking with what we plan going forward with the FBN media group. So Freedom Broadcasting Network is the name of the channel, which you'll find, or FBN Media. You'll find that on YouTube. Vince has his coin toss program up there, and he has a little thing called Chatting with Vince, I think it is, or Talking with Vince, where he's done a couple of interviews with people. Now, Vince is not a professional interviewer, and many of you aren't either, but we would also love your content. So we're going to talk to you a lot about what sort of content you might be able to give us and how we might be able to share that with everybody. And certainly Sandy and the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary is something we have plans for there. We just have to make sure they're still around to do it, because there's no point in plugging them if there's no place for the donkeys to go. And how tragic would it be if there was nowhere for the donkeys to go? I know certainly one person who's watching this show tonight is planning on a property where not just the family can be safe, but it would also have a very large equine slant. I don't know if it was extending to donkeys as such, but a small bit of arm twisting, I reckon she'd probably be involved in that. So, yeah, if you can help, it would be absolutely wonderful. Diane, you pay cash everywhere you go. That's bloody great. I think that's tremendous. Now, we were talking with Darren Bergworth yesterday about the 11 extra days, the mass action moving on from the Remembrance Day yesterday. So here are a great number of the things that you can do for the next, 10 days now. And I think it's it's not a bad initiative. It's something to get will have a bit of an effect. The more people that know about it, the more people that get on board and do it. I think it's a pretty good initiative. So My Place Australia and their team have put this together. And of course, My Place is also, with the Unity Hub, a spectacular place to go and join up and be appraised of all sorts of interesting news and details. But we'll talk more about that with Vince when he's back up and running with us, because as we all know, Vince has a fair bit to do, certainly with putting the Unity Hub together. And going forward, who knows? The crypto market has its ups and downs, says Peg. Yeah, absolutely. I have another little thing that I might throw up because I think it is particularly of interest to us all. Now, this was a post put up by Cass Smith, I think, on her Facebook page. She's telling the story here of a client who tried to send her own money to a major legitimate crypto exchange. Pardon me, that was CoinSpot. Pardon me, frog in my throat. So there was nothing shady about the transaction, just a normal transfer. But the bank decided to step in and block it. And apparently they know much better than her and many other people. And they sort of stepped in and blocked everything. So she pushed back, politely refused to answer all their little questions. And they didn't just block her transaction, they froze her entire account. They locked her out of her own money. So be careful what you're doing with the crypto, folks, people. It is just wrong. Now, this lady is probably, as far as I know, still fighting to get access to her account. She's got to go to the ombudsman to get it and try and get any kind of satisfaction. But that is just one of the examples of how they're going to make us comply. And there are certainly some other ways. The tax office at the moment are changing their regulations so that if you sell your house and you haven't paid your tax or haven't done a tax return in the last however long, they will not sign off on your house sale until you guarantee to do all your tax, so that they can keep whatever profits you make out of your house sale and take it from you in the guise of tax, which is not legitimate to take from you. Have we pointed that? I think we've probably pointed that out. I've had a couple of conversations, and in fact, I was talking to the big fella today I don't know if he's in the chat or not. But Clayton, you and I got to have another chat. I've been approached by some people today who want to have lessons about the straw man and how the straw man works, what that whole deal is. So I was thinking, if we're going to do that, then Clayton might be the bloke to do it, and we might do it over on FBN. There is a lot to know about your straw man, and it can be difficult to work out. It's much easier if you have someone who can explain it quite deeply, and I'm pretty confident that between Clayton and a couple of other people, we might be able to put together a little team that can help you or point you in the direction of that journey. Not take you along it, but there will be a way for you to go and join it, I'm sure, if that's what you chose to do. And God love you if you do, because let's face it, we could all use a little more education. Speaking of education, the interesting thing that I've discovered as this, I beg your pardon, as this thing, I'm just trying to hide that banner, as this little thing points out, is that we are always the problem. The solution will always be something to do with communism and socialism. And when that all falls over, the merry-go-round starts again. Well, this time the merry-go-round's getting a little bit of a help along, because the American government has finally admitted that, well, they don't call it ChemTrails. What they're calling it is geoengineering, but they're calling it geoengineering brackets aerosol brackets. Now, we've all known what they've been doing in the skies to a point for some time. But what have they really been doing? Well, turns out they've been spraying things that are good for crops. They've been spraying things that are bad for crops. They've been spraying things that are good for weather. They've been spraying a lot of things that are very bad for weather. They've been experimenting on vast areas of the world's weather patterns and how they can manipulate those weather patterns, in fact, generate and regenerate weather patterns using stuff they are spraying into our atmosphere. Now, I heard a very convincing argument from somebody the other day who was totally convinced that there is nothing like, chemtrails going on, because the aircraft simply aren't up high enough for it to matter. Weather is produced in an area above the safe flight range for even the most advanced military aircraft. To that I say bullshit. We have, and many times we have shown you on this show, evidence of very strange radar signatures. We have evidence of beams, of concentrated beams of energy shooting thousands of kilometers from their origin point, sometimes down in New South Wales and reaching right up into central Queensland, sometimes thousands of kilometers offshore and stretching back to maybe a couple of 100 kilometers offshore here in Australia. Sometimes they're emanating from suburban areas like Townsville, and sometimes they're coming out of other areas like, Crow's Nest. Now, Crow's Nest is the Toowoomba weather radar station. Now, it's north of Toowoomba by, far enough not to be called anywhere near Toowoomba, I would have thought. I reckon it's 80 or 90 k's north of Toowoomba. But it is on a range, and I'd never seen any kind of energy emanating from that particular area ever until last week, when Spazza, sent us through some images, and I showed you those then, of a perfectly round, I don't know, what do you call it? Radar signature, pulse, beam, I don't know. but perfectly round, perfectly consistent and staying on. And it had enough energy in it to make the storm conform, for the most part, around it until the storm heated up. And what happens when you heat up a cloud and stuff? It bubbles up and then it cools down. The higher it goes, comes back down again. That makes it stronger. It bubbles up. And so what they're doing is they're churning this atmosphere and making these storms much more violent. And I think they're learning how to control, to a point, just how violent these storms get. Evidence some of the early summer storms that we've had through southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. Ordinarily, we wouldn't expect that sort of energy in a storm until there is much more heat and humidity coming out of the ground. And there isn't that at the moment. But pretty regularly, we've started back with the, well, it used to be the 3 o'clock storm, then it became the 4, and now it's more the 5:30 storm that rolls through every afternoon. Sometimes no thunder, no lightning. Sometimes just gets very sweaty, very humid, a little bit of rain in some places. But then sometimes it rips trees out of the ground. And those tree ripping out of the ground incidences are happening more and more regularly these days than they have in the past. And these little but highly intense cells that seem to be moving through certain areas. And I remember watching this as far back as 2011, 2012, particularly how our storm clouds were manipulated by, well, at the time we were learning about HAARP, and you can see those energy waves in our skies today on a very regular basis. Not the wave that rolled through Brisbane. Was it this morning or yesterday morning? They had one of those big rolling clouds come through Brisbane this morning. It was either a magnificent cloud structure or the longest UFO we've ever heard of. Oh, bugger it. I'm going to do it. Melbourne. My lordy, lordy me, Melbourne. My lordy, 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 lordy me, Melbourne. But it's not just Melbourne. It's probably a lot of places in Australia these days. My, how our country has changed. Back in the day when I lived in Melbourne, when I was a kid living in Victoria, if you were going to Chapel Street, you were going to a pretty ritzy part of Melbourne, all right? Chapel Street, South Yarra, Chapel Street, Paran, all pretty nice, pretty trendy little parts of town. Just be careful where you park. I'll do that and push that and hang on a minute, find that button and do this.
That's your car, Dalton. That man is so good.
Welcome to Chapel Street, people. Welcome to Pooran.
Welcome to Pooran, indeed. I could go back and show you the face of that man, but I'm not going to. But you know. And what do you do? How do you combat that? Do you have to have the council ranger standing there, you know, ticket in one hand, pen in the other, hand him the ticket, and the guy uses it to wipe his ass on the way out? That fella didn't seem too worried about wiping his ass, admittedly. Sometimes, though, when you got to go, you just got to go, I'm told. And I do not want to cast any kind of aspersions on anybody who has to go when they got to go. And I get told quite a lot, usually by women, that when the urge cometh upon them, you don't really have a choice. You've got to find a loo, and you've got to find it now. Now, I don't know why Chapel Street would be, maybe it's bereft of public toilets. I don't know. Oh, I got to be careful what I say here, because I've just had a flashback. I wonder if Darren Bergwerf is watching the show. I know sometimes when you got to go. But that didn't look, well, maybe, how do you tell? Anyway, be careful where you step in Melbourne. That's probably about the best I can say. Yeah, about the best I can say. Be very careful. Need more public toilets? I would say absolutely. But are they the ones that you sit down on, or are they the ones you stand and squat over? I'm not quite sure what they're building in Melbourne at the moment. Is Dan wrapped up in a parcel and sent to China? We can only but hope. Looked like that fella was given birth to a Dan. Maybe that's a new name for what we can call somebody taking a dump in the streets. They had taken a Dan, given birth to a Dan. I know it doesn't have great alliteration, doesn't it? Doing a Dan, dropping a Dan. There is a dirty Dan, I suppose, yeah. There are a few public toilets and nearly all get vandalized. Is it any wonder that many of us have public toilet anxiety? I'm one of those people who has public toilet anxiety. And I found out only a few years ago that it's not a weird thing. A lot of people have public toilet anxiety. Can I tell you my worst public toilet anxiety? So, story. Now, if you have public toilet anxiety, you will understand completely what I'm talking about. If you do not have public toilet anxiety, you'll shit anywhere, then good luck to you, and I'm very happy for you. Some of us find that more difficult, shall we say. And I was experiencing that, funnily enough, when I was on the only cruise I've ever been on in my life, and I managed to get off the boat and was walking along a street in New Zealand. And the urge came upon me, and it was too far to get back to the boat. There was really only one choice, and that was the public toilet, which fortunately was only located across the very road from where I was sitting. So I have gone into said public toilet, and I was admiring it because it was a little electric door. You had to push the button for the door to open. Walk inside, and it was all decked out like a beautiful prison toilet. It was all beautiful polished steel, everything, and I mean everything. So you know how it sort of plays out. You go and do your business, and I should have known. I should have known there was something not quite right. But at any rate, it was a very big toilet area. There were, like a prison, no sort of cubicles or anything like that. But thankfully, the door had, closed behind me after I'd gone in, and it says occupied, so you're not going to get knocked on too much. What I didn't understand is that in New Zealand, you're only given, I think it's about 4 minutes to take a crap. And if you're not finished in that time, then the door opens right onto the public street, like right onto the public street, like there, with you sitting on the throne, peering straight out of it, looking at the trucks go by. This is a mortifying moment if you have toilet anxiety. I'm just saying, public toilet anxiety can be a horrible thing. But then you've got to decide, what do you do? Do you make a dash for the door, or do you wipe and run? Well, I chose the latter. And that's when I discovered the second problem. It had a roll of toilet paper on it that was the size of a car wheel. But you could only break it off in pieces that were about as long as, 2 knuckles deep, which unfortunately, I've probably got a 3 or probably approaching a 4 knuckle crack, if that's the way to say it. So you wind up taking lots of little pieces of paper that are ripped and, not in any form, shape, and hardly clinging together to themselves. And you do your business wiping, and then you think, well, God, I've got to go and shut that door. So you get up and you think, well, you can't push the button because you've got, and you can't pull your pants up because you've got, sticky fingers. So then you shuffle off over to the prison-style tap, which thoughtfully the New Zealand government makes it really easy because there's only one tap to turn on. But they make that really difficult to turn on. It's a plunge kind of tap, and you've got to be a front row for the All Blacks to push the button down. So thankfully, nobody had walked in at this stage. And I did eventually manage to get some water coming out of the thing, because at one stage I was looking at having to go back to the toilet and wash my hands in that. I don't know that would have made much difference. But anyway, eventually managed to get my fingers clean and got over to close the door to pull my pants up to then have a little meltdown for a little while. And that's when I found out that it's exactly 4 minutes that the door stays closed for, because I hadn't finished my little meltdown by the time the bloody door opened again. And that just made me angry. But then again, I was in the land of New Zealand front rowers. So when I say I was getting angry, it was pretty subdued. Is that the best way to say it? So, look at you. You've all got paper stories. I am going to start a channel over on FBN, Worst Poo Stories, because that's right up there with probably my worst ever poo. I do have one that you might consider even worse, but I was only a little boy when it happened. But I think we should start a Worst Poo Stories. My ex-brother-in-law has a poo story that is just beyond disastrous. It involves a very big night out, a very, very big night out, waking up to two children demanding to go to some stranger's house for a birthday party that they had promised they'd all go to, getting to that stranger's house and discovering that you need one of those, after grog bogs kind of thing, and getting into their beautiful, pristine white bathroom and going to town in it and discovering there's no toilet paper at the end of it. He does tell that story very, very well. But, yes, if you've got a bad poo story, maybe FBN might be a new home for you to come and tell it. You can tell it anonymously. You don't have to put your face on it, but you will have to tell the story. And Vince and I don't think I'm going to give too much away. Thank you, Tony. Yes, it is a shit show. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to give too much away when I'm saying that we are going to give you the ability to be able to call in on the phone to us. Some of that will be pre-recorded, like you'll get to leave what you want to say, or we'll be asking you a certain question and you'll be able to leave an answer for that. At other times, that'll be a live thing and we'll be able to do a form of talkback. I can't line calls up back to back. I've only got one phone, so it'll be talk to somebody quickly and then hang up on them and wait for the phone to ring again and talk to whoever that is. But what are we going to do with it? How are we going to do it? It will be all explained in the near, not too distant future. But we can't do any of it without your support. A bit like the Donkey Sanctuary, Vince and I also need to cover a few costs. And if you can help us out, then memberships, as I spoke about earlier, is one way you can do that. You can donate by going to vofhq.com, or you can buy a ticket in the Donkey Sanctuary lottery, which we would encourage you to do at any rate, because, like I say, we want to help the donkeys. So if you can do that, you can go to merch.vofhq.com and then click on the Sanctuary 750 link on there. And for just $2 a ticket, you can only buy a maximum of 20 of them. You'll be able to go in for a chance for $750 And that 1 gram of gold, which right now is trading, what did I say, $233. And silver, folks, yes, silver has kicked. It's gone up nearly $6 since this time last night. So I think it was sitting at 73 something or other yesterday. So maybe 74 it was last night, now that I think about it. And it started to kick, and it's now at $79.24. When you are looking at buying at the spot price, look around for the best, lowest spot price, okay? I always thought that spot was spot, but spot can be spot in different places and at different times. But what I have found is that every time Ainsley Bullion is the cheapest. So if you feel the urge to go shop around, then please go shop around. But it has been my experience, and I've done a little bit of looking around just to compare, and it's been quite interesting and sometimes quite traumatic to see the difference, even between the big bullion dealers. The all-important gold-silver index, folks, it's back under 80, 79.7, and it's saying on the drop. That's a good thing. There has been some rattle and hum about what's going to happen from the 13th. Okay, where do we start? You know the story with me and dates. It's now a bit ho-hum. However, we do have this rather large push coming from the sun with 3 discharges of energy coming from the sun let out yesterday, our time. These are converging on the Earth at an extremely rapid rate, but they are all going to arrive here tomorrow, our time, at about the same time. Now, we're going to expect pretty large interruptions, I think, to certain areas of telecommunications. We might have internet troubles. Starlink may not work for a little bit. But there are other suggestions coming from, the usual suspects, let's just say, that this is another one of those white hat moments where what will follow once this energy burst hits the Earth will be the 10 days of darkness. I'm not sure that I'm energetically enthused about that idea. I mean, I'd love it to happen if that's what happens, but I don't get terribly excited these days about predictions of the 10 days of darkness, considering I've heard various predictions of it going from 10 to 3 to 7 to 5 and back to 10 again. So maybe that is how it works operationally. Sometimes they think they've got it cleared by that much, and then they find a whole other hidden group they hadn't found before, and they've got to go after that, pushes the timeline back. Understand, heard all the excuses, don't care anymore. Just want it fixed. Just want it fixed. And if this is the largest PSYOP in history, then I think you, me, and the rest of us that woke up to this PSYOP and joined it, we did so for the right reasons, and I'm still not sure we're not wrong. I'm sure we're not wrong, in fact. But it's clear the rest of the world is programmed, brain dead, and it's going to require something bigger than any of us separately or combined can do to generate a mass awakening on the scale that we particularly needed here in this country. Darren was talking yesterday, and I believe him. I agree with him. I think there's 1 million people here in this country, maybe 2, that believe what we believe that change needs to be made, believe the illegality that is being committed against us, and for the most part can actually prove it and show it to those who doubt it. But we need a lot more than that. We need, Darren says 5 million. I personally think to be safe, we need 7 to 8 million. Bear in mind, there are 19 million, or last election, there were over 19 million voters. So we don't need all of them. We don't even need half of them. but I do think we need approaching half of them. So I think 7 million would be good, 9 million would be great. And is that mass awakening going to be something that we all would support and agree with? Let's say, for instance, I don't know, 3I Atlas, the meteor or whatever it is that's hurtling towards Earth at the moment, actually pulls up, comes to a stop, does a couple of donuts around the Earth and comes to a screeching halt above the White House. Where are we going to be then with one world government, one world military, one world health, all that kind of thing? Particularly if the Project Bluebeam, as I believe it would be, does have some destructive capabilities. And by that, I mean people will die. There will be injuries. Buildings will fall. Things will blow up. But it won't be because the aliens are doing it. The aliens aren't just going to come here after all these years and start shooting the shit out of us. Doesn't make any sense. Not at all. No, I think the aliens have already been here for tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, potentially, and are living right under our feet. Some, I believe quite a lot, living a bit south of where we are. And I don't mean Tasmania, I mean a bit further south than Tasmania. And they're living underground and have been doing for a very long time. I'm just about at the point where I'm just hoping I get to see it in my lifetime. I'd love to go to Antarctica and go to places where they don't let you go, but they're not going to let us do that. I would love to go to Antarctica and fly over it, but there would be no real point knowing what I know and knowing about where they take the Qantas flights. You're not going to see anything. You're not going to be allowed to see anything. And that's, for me, no more exciting than, well, voting in an election. So, I don't know. We've just got to keep pushing, keep trying, keep telling folks the logic of it. Give them the logic locks. And hopefully with a laugh and a little bit more information that's presented in ways that maybe isn't as direct, isn't as red-pilling as we have done previously. Maybe a spoonful of sugar does help the medicine go down. And with a little bit of luck, it'll motivate and help all of us to put a spring in our step, a smile on our face. And, well, I may be hoping for too much, but maybe, depending on some of the content that I'd like to produce and whether or not Vince is going to let me produce it, it may make some of us better drivers. I can't cure all the dickheads, folks, but I might be able to get one or two off the road. See you tomorrow night.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!